Welcome to Access, brought to you by Crypto.com. Matthew, Lloyd and Damian Barrett with you. A full quota of 9 matches to wade through from round one. And Lordo, there is a lot to take out. Your views, your critical views on Harley of the Eagles.
Yeah, I look forward to talking about Harley shortly and that devastating loss in the round one, but also talk about Carlton, who have a huge game against Hawthorn on Thursday night.
Some really bad losses from a lot of teams. We'll start, though, today with the Giant last quarter by the Giants captain, Toby Greene. Lotto, he's got a CV that includes all Australian captaincy on it. He has returned in the 2 weeks of 2025 to that status. He is the best captain in the comp.
Oh, he was phenomenal, Damian. Let's take a look at what he did yesterday at the MCG in a game that was a big game for them, to go 2-0 or 1-1. And he said at three-quarter time, get me around the ball. He wanted to be around the ball, Damo, and what he did was win the first clearance, 11 disposals in the last quarter, and it was a wet day, so some of these disposals aren't the best, but what he did was just kept surging the ball forward. This was a phenomenal run at a critical time, and well done by Aaron Cadman. He put it in the perfect spot.
And the composure to stop here and just kick it.
And get it over the player's hands. You can't teach that. So I've seen him in tears in big games, finals, you know, where they haven't got to grand final day, and he wants it more than anybody, and he was unbelievable in his game. Didn't have a great year last year, but the midfielder, Toby, the midfielder I'm loving in season 2024.
By his standards, it wasn't a good year. He got it going late, but it wasn't a good in totality. Now, the last passage of play, or the match-winning passage of play, it ended up the ball in the hands of someone who's been on a club list for a long time, Lordo. We'll get to that in a moment. His name's Lockie Keefe, but this ball movement, Darcy Jones's handball, the weighted handball to Callaghan, who then goes and gets it to take it across to the board.
Yeah, Darcy Jones, he's in All-Australian form after 2 rounds. Callum Ward, the poise, and this man, Lockie Keefe, he'd been battered by Max Gawn. So to go back, have the composure to kick that goal, the best moment of his career, I would have thought.
Well, it's a long career. 2009, he joined the Collingwood list. Didn't play till 2011. He had a 2-year drug ban, and to still be influencing and winning games of football in that moment, it's a testament to him.
Yeah, it was. Absolutely, Damo. When the Saints, well, they were the big losers yesterday, weren't
they were. And they are today's coach speak. Ross Lyon talking in riddles often, looking for excuses.
I don't like to use excuses. It's next man up, but clearly we're a young list that gets a bit more vulnerable, but that's the path we're chosen. But we also want to be better than that. So we've got a growth mindset. Some really valuable lessons, and I think when we got it right and we played with better method, we're in the game. A ground ball, we win the ground ball. So I just thought, ability to defend them and the ground was not at the level that's required or I'm used to delivering. So coaches and players have got a bit of work to do.
So it doesn't want to make excuses, Lordo, but then rattles off a few. This club's in a world of hurt. They've tried to reposition themselves publicly with a narrative that says they're young and that it's all about the future. But this wasn't the reason they got Ross Lyon back to replace Brett Ratten as coach 3 years ago.
Absolutely. It's just turned over this off-season that they're a mile off. And what Ross stands for is defensively. He's one of the best defensive coaches the game's seen, albeit not winning a premiership, but they had none of that yesterday. So that's what he's got to revert back to. Even if they haven't got the talent ahead of the ball, can they defend better? And it was non-existent yesterday. That was just in a space of this third quarter. They just banged on seven in a row. And look at the players breaking out. It was party time. It was one of those games that you go, I want to be part of this. I want to cash in. Even the players just breaking out from the centre bounce. So it's a worry because he's talking about just playing youth, but I'm not sure the youth is that good. Yes, they went back and drafted quite well in the draft just gone, but Jordan Dawson put on a clean. I'm worried about that man, Jack Steele. He's still the captain, but he is that far off the prime midfielders in the game. It's not funny. So Dawson put on a clinic against Marcus Windhager as well.
And credit to Adelaide as we look at this because they needed to get off to the start they did. Now, albeit against a weaker opposition. So today's boardroom agenda is the AFL itself. It's AFL headquarters. It's the football department. It's the match review office specifically, which has handed down 3 significant suspensions out of the weekend. This first one here is a scrimshaw on Ridley, and you can debate whether that's worthy 1, 2, 3. He's got 3. It's going to the tribunal, we think. Now, this one here, Justin McInerney on Brandon Starcevic. Starcevic's 3rd concussion inside 12 matches. I feel it's pretty innocuous, Lordo. I get the outcome as a concussion. That's why it's been given 3 weeks. And this is the most contentious one. Jackson Archer on Luke Cleary. There's an argument you can mount, and I would imagine if North Melbourne will be mounting this at a tribunal hearing, that it should have been Archer. Even though Cleary was the concussed player in that moment, that could have got the free kick for having his legs taken out. Now, I raise all this because of the complexity on this. So this is the official gradings on these findings by Michael Christian, the independent match review officer. I expect, we talked early on Monday morning on this show, I expect all three to go to the tribunal, which then creates, in my mind, another layer of unnecessary complexity to what the AFL wants to stamp out.
And you loathe this process, don't you? Because say in Scrimshaw's case, he was concussed himself, so he's not available for Thursday night. But if he wanted to go through the full process, they probably wouldn't get it done in time, would they? Just
to go over it, as you say, Friday night game, he would have the right today to appeal that, to go to a tribunal on a Tuesday, and if he didn't like that outcome, he could take it to a appeals tribunal, which is held on Thursday night, game of match. Now, he's not playing, it's academic in this argument, but either way, these cases I expect to be going through the tribunal and through an appeals tribunal, which just, who's sending the message and why is it that lawyers ultimately are determining what it is that is the outcome?
Yeah, and I just see it now. It's just the outcome based. So those three players, they don't deserve 3 weeks. So I think they all should go to the tribunal and they all should come out with a less of a sanction because 3 weeks is so excessive.
To wrap up a wider conversation, do we just need to accept that accidents happen in a game that is promoted partially for its brutality?
Absolutely. Jackson Archer's is a pure accident. Some may question, he's just kamikaze. His apple doesn't fall far from the tree. His dad Glenn played in the same way. So he had no intent to hurt Luke Cleary, so I don't think he deserves anything.
And I don't think McInerney did either.
No,
with Starcevic, and that's the third one for Starcevic. That's a separate story. We said before, a lot of bad results for a lot of clubs at the moment, and Carlton is probably at the top of the tree when it comes to its loss to Richmond. Yeah,
Damo, they're up by 41 points against Richmond, who are a bunch of kids who weren't entitled to win this game. So well done to Adam Uze, because the pressure that they applied was that of a team that's 10 years senior than what they put out. So well done to Adam Uze, rap for him and his team. But the panic that set in at Carlton, Nick Haynes couldn't have had a worse first game for his club at Carlton with the panic that he set in. Well done to Harry Armstrong, so a kid who thought through at the right time. But it was damning. We could have showed another 10 clips here of Carlton blokes who just want to boot the ball, hack the ball. We had the Doherty moment late. Where we just saw there with Lawler going in. We had Harry Mackay missing a goal from the top of the square. Where's he at in his career? And I asked the question, I've asked it a few times over the weekend, do we just get seduced by 3 players, Curnow, Wiedering and Cripps?
And you're not even putting Walsh in that conversation at this stage.
No, because he's not to their level. And the rest of them, like what is McGovern? What is Adam Sard? What is Adam Chera?
Yep.
So there's all these names there, but they just don't produce, and that was a poor loss, and I can't wait to see what they serve up Thursday night.
There's a name we will never forget after the debut of Sam Lawler in the same game, an 18-year-old to have the presence that he had, to seize moments, Lordo. It was quite extraordinary. The 2 goals he kicked were one thing, and one at an absolutely crucial stage. This was the first of the 2, and again, the hard running just to get to that point, to kick that goal, but to still have the guts to run hard in the last quarter when there must have been nothing left. But then this is the result of it. You get on the end of a chain. Yeah, players like him don't come around very often. So he's rare. He's a player that can go forward. He can be big. It's what Toby Greene's doing. I'm sure Lawler will do over the next 10 to 15 years. Now, today's Crypto.com big call. It's over to you, Lordo, and I'm keen to see what you're about to say about Harley Reid. Well, what my views are, Damo, is that Patrick Dangerfield and Chris Judd served unbelievable careers for their first club. So they both go interstate. Patrick Dangerfield to Adelaide and also Chris Judd to the West Coast Eagles. And I think in the Connors stable, he likes to have them serve at least 7 or 8 years, good years. But what I'm seeing with Harley Reid is, I know he's only played 24, 25 games, but I'm not sure he's in his best headspace with what he's doing. He doesn't seem super fit at times. He's also wrestling and fighting a fair bit. And then they get belted. He's won 5 games in his career so far. So I just think if something doesn't change and if they don't become more competitive and he doesn't have good senior people around him, and I'm talking putting it on Oscar Allen, I'm putting it on Liam Baker, that the talk will come this year, not next year when his 3rd year is up. It's interesting you raise Oscar Allen there because he's in screen there putting his arm around him literally. And I raise that, Lordo, because Oscar Allen himself is weighing up his own future. And while this conversation and your big call is around Harley Reid, it's around the club itself in some ways, isn't it? Because I have full respect for Oscar Allen to wait and determine where he wants to be, but he is captain of a footy club that's trying to keep Harley Reid, it's trying to attract Chad Warner, and he's making his own decisions around his own future in the same time space. Yeah, and Harley also will be looking at a young coach who's trying to find his way in the game.
looking for that. Why should I stay? How can you sell to me while I'll stay and all that? So there's a lot of question marks for Harley to look at over the next year.
There's some Monday mornings on Access. You're going to try and hold me accountable for what I write in Sliding Doors on Friday. You've raised the North Melbourne issue, and you surely must have to agree with me today, because this footy club, as has been the narrative of mine all summer, it just has to stop losing nicely. And I put it on Alistair Clarkson. He's the coach. He's going into his third year. They faced a Western Bulldogs which was smashed with injury, Gordo. That's smashed.
Yeah, Damian, I love what you post here, because it's just all there in a nutshell. At 7:30 Saturday night, time to win. The club has got too comfortable with losing. Dogs are smashed with injury. No excuses for this 22 that play, and unfortunately they've lost again.
Well, they just accept losing, Gordo. They just accept it, and the narrative, a bit like St Kilda, the future's okay. Well, I'm not sure it is. That man is the best player in the competition in my eyes, Marcus Bontempelli, not playing. We know Ugle-Hagan was out, Treloar was out, Jones was out, Waitman was out. They lost Cleary, we just showed that. They lost O'Donnell during the game, and look at the score.
No, it's a bad loss, and look at Finn O'Sullivan, the next wave of player that doesn't know how to win. So that is Alistair Clarkson's job, to teach these guys how to win, because they've been battered from the moment they walk through those doors. They just do not win very often.
Another senior coach under all sorts of pressure after round one, Ken Hinkley, 91-point loss to the Collingwood Football Club. It was the manner in which this loss unfolded which is the biggest issue.
It is, because the GWS Giants showed them how to win. They pressured the life out of Collingwood and made them look second-rate, made them look slow. Suddenly, Membry and McStay and these guys, Mycheck, looked good. They looked awful the week before.
Yeah, that's right.
They looked slow. They couldn't cover the ground. Suddenly,
and Sidebottom looked quick.
Sidebottom looked good. And Schultz and Bobby Hill had a shocker the week before. They all looked like amazing players, because Port Adelaide applied no pressure whatsoever. So that's what's the most damning thing. And unfortunately, it falls onto this whenever they lose.
It does. And look, I get why people are now questioning what this club did over the off-season. That is to transfer power from Ken Hinkley at the end of this year officially to Josh Carr. But what's Josh Carr doing in this game, Lordo? Isn't the midfield his forte?
Yeah.
And why is it that you just showed a stream of replays there where Collingwood had so much space? I mean, you can say that this is not working from a future perspective, but Josh Carr is still able to influence this club right now.
So how do you know Koshy better than I do? Does he see this right through? Is he the type of man to go, will he ever say, this isn't working, I'm making a call?
I can't imagine him doing that. I mean, they're not going to me, revisit a decision they made at great consideration in the off-season after one game.
Yeah, but what about at round 10 or 11?
Well, that's a different story. Yeah. And I've got a view that if it's mathematically impossible to make finals, or it's just heading that way, that's when a decision be made, not after round one, in my eyes. Hey, it wasn't good viewing last week at this time for you and I with our tips, but it's slightly better.
We've got the learnings first, Damo.
We're going to do the learnings first. That's a very good point, Lotto. We'll go to learnings first, because you wanted to focus on the Dockers.
Yes, great third quarter, but do they lack the mental toughness? A lot goes on Justin Longmuir. It's his job to have them tougher than what they served up in the last quarter. Big game ahead for them against the Sydney Swans. Hawthorn, they kick it like their coach. They are deadly and the best kicking team in the
Is any one of their players better than the coach as a kick? Because he says no still. And I think it's hard to argue with his argument.
James Sicily kicks pretty well out of full back.
Carl Lehmann's pretty good.
Yeah, he is as well. And the Suns, I know it was against a shocking opposition, but they look different. But time will tell.
I wanted to focus on Josh Dunkley. Chris Fagan describes him as the most like player to Luke Hodge at his coach, and you can see why. That leadership on the weekend, massive win against the Swans, with all they've been through, not being able to train. That was a September-like win. Josh Dunkley led the way, and I think it's worth persevering with Sam de Koning as a ruckler. He was all at sea.
There's no other plan, surely. I don't know who else, because Conway's had a few injuries.
Yeah, he has, and Stanley gets them so far.
No, he's the man, no
doubt.
No
he was all at sea last year. Now, I jumped the gun, but let's get to the tips from the weekend. We've still got some work to do, Lordo, with Chad Wingard starting very, very nicely, but at least I'm on the board.
Yes. I got 8 out of 9. You got 7 out of 9, so we're back, don't we?
Yep. Thank you for watching Access for Crypto.com, and we'll be back next week to take a look at round 2.